Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Michael Noland here, and tonight what we're going to do is reveal my fifth choice for my list of Olympian level rock bands. You know, I say my fifth choice, but you know, Pink Floyd is my third favorite band of all time, only being topped by the Beatles themselves and the mighty Led Zeppelin. Now we're going to be covering this band in full aspect in future videos, but you know, in this video what I really want to do is just give a general overview of the band tonight. I want to give you my reasonings why I see them in the number 3 spot, and trust me, they don't make this list just because of their magnificent albums such as Dark Side of the Moon, The Wall, or Animals for that matter. No. There is so much to this band. You know, on Mount Olympus, there were 12 gods that resided there. And of course, my list will adhere to the Olympian rules of 12 rock bands. But you see, I found a loophole, baby. If you remember, there is a god that doesn't reside on Mount Olympus, but he's one of the big 3. He's Hades, Zeus's brother. You know, in past videos, I've identified the Beatles as Zeus, and if they're Zeus, of course, Led Zeppelin would have to be Poseidon. But there's another brother sitting off to the side, sometimes visiting Mount Olympus, but residing outside of Olympus proper most of the time. And to me, that's exactly where Pink Floyd fits in to the rock scene. This band started off with Sid Barrett, Roger Waters, Mason, and Wright, eventually even hiring David Gilmour to play live instead of Sid because they didn't know if Sid would perform on certain nights. And it was on their second album that Gilmour found his way into the group as Sid Barrett found his way out. But you know, for bands on this level, and I'm talking about the Beatles, I'm talking about Led Zeppelin, there seems to be a payment due when 4 gentlemen operate on this level musically. For the Beatles, of course, that payment was not due until long after they had broken up. With Led Zeppelin, that payment cost the band their very identity. But you know, payment due was due to Pink Floyd right from the outset. Now, I've used the word genius several times on this channel, haven't I? But I don't use the word lightly. So far, I've identified Jimmy Page as a genius guitar player and producer. I've identified Robert Plant and the other members of Led Zeppelin in their own rights, geniuses as far as what they contributed to the band. Of course, with the Beatles, we had the 2 obvious geniuses of Lennon and McCartney, soon to be followed by George Harrison. But you know, with Pink Floyd, if there is a Jimmy Page or a John Lennon in this band, it was Sid Barrett. You know, Sid was like a shooting star, looking magnificent, but of course, all too soon extinguished. But you know, the band somehow miraculously survived. Not only survived, but would go on to produce their most well-known music, their most popular music, converting masses of people into raving fans. Now, if you remember, just a couple of videos ago, I revealed my favorite prog rock band, and I identified my favorite prog rock band as Yes. But you know, Pink Floyd has been identified as a prog rock band, and I thoroughly disagree. They are not a prog rock band, not in the classic sense. They are a psychedelic jam band that reached a certain gloss that got misrepresented by rock writers, of course, as usual, as being a prog rock band. But you know, that's not what I hear when I hear Pink Floyd. I hear a jam band, a psychedelic jam band that, like Led Zeppelin, evolved into a higher sound. And of course, just like the Beatles and just like Led Zeppelin, they would evolve that sound to even cover more acoustically treated material. Now, with the Beatles, much of their acoustic stuff, especially around the White Album, sounded very progressive, for a Beatle album. And of course, you already know my thoughts on Led Zeppelin, with Jimmy Page's explorations into alternative Celtic tunings achieved a very valid acoustic approach to songwriting as well as recording. With Pink Floyd, what do we get? When they start to go acoustic, they sound like they're coming out of Tucson, Arizona. You know, I love it when British bands can sound so Americana. You know what I think of the track Brawn Your Stop from Led Zeppelin? Of course. Another thing that takes them away from that title of prog rock for me is their lyrics. A lot of times with prog rock bands, they embrace higher ideologies and then write a tune around that, grounding that tune by other elements within the layering of the song. But that's not Pink Floyd's approach. Their lyrics as a whole concern sanity itself, as well as the fear of going insane, the fear of not being able to find your way back home. This isn't prog rock material, and that's exactly why I did not choose them in place of Yes. So there is a room for Yes here on my list, as I've stated before. Now, another thing, what is it about the power of four? How many great rock bands had 4 members? Now, I know the first thing you're going to think of is, well, what about this band or that band? You have Chicago, where you have Tower of Power, or Santana with 7 or more members, and they accomplished great things, no doubt. But what is it about a band with only 4 members? Is it that each member is part of a box, like Paul McCartney once explained how the Beatles were? Each one responsible primarily for their quadrant of the box, then leaking into each other's territory to create a greater whole. Now, don't worry, in future videos, we're going to cover the full spectrum of Pink Floyd, no doubt. And that will even include post-Waters Pink Floyd. I'm one of the few that actually like the album Division Bell, and we'll be giving this band the full treatment, the same full treatment that I've given the Beatles as well as Led Zeppelin, because you know, guys, they deserve no less. All right, guys, so that basically covers the video for tonight. I just wanted to get the band introduced, some of my very basic thoughts as to why I consider this band so great, but I've got a question for you guys. What is your favorite 3 rock bands of all time? What are the 3 rock bands, in your opinion, that is most responsible for carving a greater amount of territory in the rock and roll genre? You know, once again, a great big shout out to all of our viewers. You know, we're a small channel, but the amount of views this small channel has achieved is far greater than I ever hoped it would at this point in its development.